friends. Happy Feature Friday, everybody. So glad to have you here for another week. I am going to be going over borders again this week with a different method of filling those. This is going to be using point to point, and that is a feature that's available on your mid and top of the line robotic systems. So if you have that, this could be a different way for you to fill those borders or sashings and give you some creative ideas to do something a little bit different. So let's go ahead and look at how that works. We're going to look at the quilt top and some markings that I've done, and then we'll look at the robotics and go ahead and fill that in. So I'm going to turn you guys around. And here we are. You can see I've got the same little quilt top on here with the fox on it, and then all of my different borders. And I've got the pink border that we filled in last week, all set and done here. And I do realize y'all are seeing my crazy backing with the polka dot and all of this fun stuff. The backing that I have that's on this quilt was leftovers from the front, and I just had enough to fit the back with like a hair over. So I put borders of extra stuff I had in my stash on it so that I had something to clamp onto and pin to my leaders here. So I know it looks crazy, but that's not really what the back looks like. Anyway, we are going to be working on this black border here, and I have markings that I've made in the black border. You can see I've got little white chalk lines here. They are about every 5 inches apart, and I've got these set all the way around my black border. I did a little math. I measured my borders and then divided that up with what I thought a design would look nice in spread out in this border. So I've got every 5 inches. So I marked that with chalk, and that is kind of how we're going to fit our design in here. So you may want to take a little time, think about how you want your border to look, do some measurements, do some math, figure out how many repeats of a design you could get in your borders and it look the way you want it to. So I went ahead and marked everything out because everywhere there is a chalk line, that is where we are going to drop a point when we do our point to point. Okay. So on our robotics screen, we are in layout right now because we have set our safe space. So that's our whole quilt top and a little bit extra. And we are just going to work within here. We don't actually need to add a layout box for this. So I am going to come to edit up here on the left-hand side of my display and highlight that. And when I do, you can see on the right-hand side of the display, we've got our editing features, and our point-to-point feature is actually this little guy here. So we are going to touch that and highlight it, and now it's turned orange. And we have our point-to-point features across the bottom. So we are going to use those. I believe I did a video of this, so you may be able to look back in the archives on how to use point-to-point to review that. So we've got our file folder here. So we are going to pick our pattern first. Our plus sign for dropping our points, our chain break if we want to move to a different location, and then our pattern height, which we'll probably need to adjust. So let's go ahead and get our pattern loaded. So I'm going to hit my little pattern here. And I've got my pattern list, but I am going to actually type in on the little white bar here, get my keyboard up because I know the pattern I want has hearts in it. So I'm going to type in heart, and right there it is. So I'm going to highlight that and hit my check mark, and that loads it up here into the corner of my whole space. And it's going to hang out there until we start dropping points. So I'm going to next look at my pattern height. My pattern height says that this is 3 inches tall. And then we're going to go ahead and use our ruler and measure our border and see if that is okay or if we want to adjust that. So if I take my ruler and lay that out over my black border here, it is exactly 3 inches tall. So I'm going to back up just a little bit and do it at 2 3/4 because I don't want my design coming right to the tippy top of this border. I want it to come just a little bit below. So I'm going to change my pattern height. So I'm going to touch on the 3 right here That opens my keyboard, and I'm going to put in 2.75 and hit the check mark. And now my pattern height is at 2.75. I'll be happier with that fit. Okay, so now that we have that, we are ready to start dropping our points. And we are going to move our machine to our very first point here. And we're going to go clockwise around our quilt top, because that is the direction we need to move to get the design to face in the direction I want. So this design is facing upwards right now. So if I want the little top of the heart to be facing the outside of the quilt, that's the direction I need to go in. I know that's a little confusing. That's why I said go ahead and look at the last video I did on point to point, and it explains kind of the movement of the designs will depend on the direction you move your machine in. So we are going to start here, and I am lined up just in between the seam line here on my first chalk line. And I am going to hit my plus sign for my first point. And it's to select the next point in my pattern chain. So I'm going to move upward or away from me to my next 5-inch line. So I'm about 5 inches apart in between these. And I am going to hit my plus sign for my next point. And now it's taken the design from up in the corner and moved it to the location between those 2 points I just put in. We're going to then move our machine again away from us, or I say upward, and I'm going to the corner next. That is my next point, 5 inches away, and I'm going to hit my plus sign. And when I do that, I've got the next design in my chain added. We're going to come around the corner now, so we are going to go to the right. So I'm going to move my machine to the right to my next chalk mark here, and hit my plus sign. And when I do that, you can see that I've moved my design around the corner. So I'm going to continue across every 5-inch mark on the whole length of this little border here. And I'm going to hit my plus sign at every check mark and at every checkpoint, every mark that I've got here in chalk, so that it adds another design. So you can see as I'm going along, it's adding another design to the display screen. So here's another one. This is a pretty quick process when you get the hang of how it works. Just is a little bit of a learning curve to just get it wrapped up in your mind on how all of this this works and how they chain together, and make sure you're going in the right direction. So here we are at the corner again. So now I'm going to come down or towards myself to come down this corner. So I'm going to mark this first point here on this side, and I've come down, and one more here. Okay, so now I've got a cute little chain of these little hearts and circles all the way around my border. And this is as much as I can get in my quilt space that I have set up with this frame. I think I have about 14 inches, so that's all I can fit in here right now. So I will go ahead and stitch this out, and then I can roll my quilt and continue adding points and adding my designs. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my home button right now and turn my needle on, because my needle is not engaged yet. And I'm going to go ahead and hit start and get this stitching out. Okay, I will be back with you in just a minute so you can see what this looks like on the actual quilt when it's all stitched out. All right, everybody, I have that border stitched out, so you can see that I've got my cute little hearts and circles all the way around where we place them, point to point, and I think I did a pretty good job of getting everything lined up with my chalk marks. So we ended up on our 5-inch mark all the way around. So I think that looks pretty cute, but some of you might say, well, hey, Aubrey, there's nothing in this corner because we kind of skip over the corner when we do point to point. There is nothing there, and I can show you how to fill that in really quick. All you have to do is make a layout box here in the corner if you want to fill that in with something. So let me bring my machine over, and I can put a layout box there for you. So we're going to go in, we just stitched this out, we're still in our home button. We're going to come down to layout, and you can still see this because we're in our big view of our quilt area. I'm going to hit my plus sign to add a layout box, and it says set the first point. So I'm going to just set my 4 corners here of just this area and make like a cornerstone. So I'm going to hit my plus, I'm going to move down to the next corner, hit my plus, and then I'm going to move over to the inside corner where all of these little patterns are meeting and my borders meet. I think I'm lined up there, and hit my plus. And then I'm going to move up to the top here and hit my check mark. And now I've got a pattern box right there in the corner, and we can always go to patterns, and let's see if I have anything. Oh, I did pick something out that I thought was cute. I've got this little pattern here that's got hearts in it. I can hit my check mark, and obviously it's way too big for that corner, so we can come over to our scale feature, and I'm going to auto scale that in, and I'm going to actually hit my morph button really quick just to tilt that because it is a little crooked. And now I've got this filled in for a cornerstone. So if we want to see what that would look like real quick against these hearts, I can always go to my full quilt view, and you can see now I've got a little cornerstone in there. So I could go ahead and repeat that over on the other side if I wanted to and get that all filled in. As you can see, this is just another fun and creative way to fill in your borders, something different to try if you have the feature on your robotic system. And I hope this makes a little bit easier sense of what's going on with your borders and different ways you can take care of them with the robotic system. Like I said last time, there's no right way or wrong way to do it. It's just the way you feel comfortable and figure out what works best for you and the quilt you're working on. Thanks so much for joining us.